Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
And it was posted by CNN. Actually, it says U.S. captures Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and flies him out of the country after striking Caracas. Trump announces. Right, so
how genuine is this post?
Well, my producer just forwarded it to me. TJ sent it to me currently.
Are you sure it's not fake news?
Okay, according to him, all the news outlets have actually carried it. Okay, all right. So, lawyer, I'll come to you on the issue of 2025, with a focus on the state of the economy and then the Constitutional Review Committee report.
Yeah. So 2025 means that we are starting from 1st January 2025. So I can talk about 6th January 2025 also.
Right.
Yes. So I think first appreciating the work that has been done this year, we need to find the proper context. The proper context is that on 6th January 2025, we had an economy that was in coma practically. We had a situation where Ghanaians had lost all confidence in the economy. By 6th January 2025, the indicators, as in inflation, had come down from 54% to about around 23% also.
Right.
The dollar had, as in the dollar, which at some point in time was around 70%, was moving around 15 points, about around 15.5%. The state of hopelessness was really high. You understand? And the only hope we had was that we had successfully effected a change, and we were all sitting and anticipating or hoping to see how His Excellency John Mahama was going to change that. As in, if there was one thing that we all agreed was the enormity of the tax on President Mahama based on the harm, the criminal nature in which our economy had been managed. And some of the decisions that the previous regime had taken was dire. And some of us were under the firm belief, and I still hold that belief, that the reason why the whole country essentially was on its knees, not just the economy politically, was because we had a president that pursued an agenda that was totally different from, or that was adverse to the Ghana agenda. That was the situation as of 6th January 2026. Within, one thing that amazes me is the speed with which things have been turned around. With the commitment that this regime has shown in resetting Ghana. You see, when you define what an economy is the state of a nation in terms of its consumption, its production of goods and services, and the supply of money. And then we ought to understand that the fundamental role government plays in any economy is in terms of the supply of money, that is in terms of the fiscal side and then the monetary side. And when you consider that, then I think I don't have much to say but to say kudos to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. But if he's really exposed the crass cruelty of the SWA regime, and I'm not only speaking my mind, I think I'll not be far from the truth if I say I'm speaking the mind of a lot of Ghanaians. You just need to look at the attitude towards Ghana, the attitude Ghanaians have towards the NPP when they try to critique or criticize anything this government has done. It's not only because of the extent of the damage they caused, but also a reflection of the work they've done to restore at least the hope, the lost hope the people of Ghana had in the ability of this economy to push our individual agenda. You see, the economists will talk about the indicators, and all what the indicators do is that they are akin to when you go and do your medical report. Your sugar level is this, your BP is this. It tells the state of your fiscal. Now, His Excellency Dr. Bamia himself told us that if you are confused about the state of the economy, just look at the exchange rate. As of today, the exchange rate is around 10.5. It's 10.5. Within 1 year, the exchange rate has been reduced from about 15.5 to 10.5. Inflation is at single digit. You understand?
Right.
And so the indicators clearly show us that the fundamentals of our economy are being altered in a radical way. Maybe we are not seeing a paradigm shift, but at least these are people who are managing the situation way better than the previous regime. At least we have leadership. I don't know what is happening within the NDC, but sitting as in coming from us or being somebody who is an outsider, at least I can comfortably say that whereas in 8 years we didn't have a leader, now we have a leader. You may disagree with his ways, you may disagree with his methods, but if there's something that is abundantly clear, we have a leader now. We have a leader who clearly is committed to the Ghana agenda. You understand? And also, I must also commend the NDC, specifically their General Secretary. Because if there's something fundamental that fueled the depravity in a country over the last 8 years, it was the fact that the NPP as a political party deliberately forgot that they were supposed to be the vanguard of their party's ideals, and those ideals ought to have reflected in how they governed. I listened to the General Secretary of the NDC. People may disagree with his position. In my personal view, the president has not shown any inclination to pursue a third term. In fact, he's even come out to say that he's not interested in a third term. But it is refreshing that the General Secretary of their party will reiterate that position. I don't know what's happening within their party, but for me that tells me that this is a political party that has leadership that is responsible. And not just the General Secretary. I heard the chairman on 2 occasions. I think Sam George was playing some games. He came out and called out Sam George. When the presidential envoy on spiritual matters, came out with his interesting edict about the chairman of the NDC called him out. He stated the party's position, which was adverse to his personal, the personal position of the envoy. For me, that's a responsible party. That's our party's ought to. So we have a long way to go. You understand? Still, we have nurses who have the nurses been. We have a backlog of nurses.
Yes, a lot.
So clearly we still have issues with the economy. You understand? And when you do a comparative analysis, then it's like it's day and night. But that does not mask the issues that the economy still have. We still have an economy that's unable to create jobs. We still have our compatriots, you understand, who do not have proper classrooms to study. We still have situations where our health system is not able to sustain us. As a friend of mine got sick over the Christmas period, and I was shocked to learn that we do not have credible ambulances that could safely transport him from one hospital to another. So there are still issues. So it means that there's still a lot of work to be done. We should not be complacent only because we are comparing a very a terrible government to a government that clearly has commitment towards the nation's agenda. Indeed, the fact that we are struggling with getting Ken Ofori to account, in spite of the fact that we have a constitution that has as one of its abiding principles the principle of probity and accountability, tells you that there are elements in our constitution that ought to be re-looked at. I've seen the review of the Constitutional Committee, and they are saying that where the president has done something which is criminal during the tenure of his office, we have just 4-year tenure to prosecute him. I'm vehemently opposed to that position, because you see, what we ought to understand, that we have a constitution whose main principle is the principle of the rule of law, and one of the fundamental principles of the rule of law is equality before the law. You understand? And we know that if I am a president, I commit a crime, there's no time limit. I can be prosecuted anytime. I think that ought to also apply to the president of Ghana. So when you are president of Ghana and you commit crimes, there shouldn't be a time limit. We can never benefit from the full idea of the concept of the probity and accountability if we still have a constitution that more or less places an expiry date on criminal acts done by the president. The president is not better than any other person. You are president, is your job, but it does not mean that you are above the law. And there should not be any provision in our constitution, you understand, that seeks to suggest that, because then that provision will be fair against some of the fundamental principles that underpins our constitution. So I'm vehemently opposed to that provision. It must be taken. When you are president of Ghana and you commit a crime, there must not be a time limit to when you can be prosecuted. Also, I agree with my senior brother Kudos when he says that laws are made to solve problems. Laws create institutions, and the focus of laws essentially is to cure problems. Now, you recall that this year I had a show with you.
Yes.
And then we had an argument.
Very well.
About the fact that over the course of the life of this republic, of our fourth republic, the job of holding the executive accountable seems to fall on just the minority in parliament or the opposition, but which ought not to be the case, because when we were fashioning this constitution, when we agreed to take what we call a constitutional democracy and limiting the powers of government, in fact, one of the ways in which we can do that is through the separation of powers. You understand? Right. The whole understanding was that Parliament was going to hold the executive accountable, but we have not been able to do that. We have not been able to do that because of the architecture of our constitution. Right. And so I'm aligned to the view of the Constitutional Review Committee, where they say that there ought to be a total separation. That where you are an MP, then you should not be considered for executive position. I tend to agree with that position. You understand? Because if I may use Ken Ofori as an example, in fact, all the records will show that Ken Ofori should not have been approved to be Minister of Finance. The reports of the Obutan investigation is public. No, so it's not private. You know, in 1998, there was an investigation on him, the Obutan scandal. Those reports are public. No, so. Right. And it's shocking that in spite of that, Ken Ofori was approved in 2017. And in 2020, when, in spite of the cry by Ghanaians, he was still approved. Now, I believe that if we strengthen the institution of Parliament, right, if we deliberately strengthen the institution of parliament. And I think we'll be taking a step to strengthen parliament if parliamentarians know that they are just parliamentarians. You understand? Then Ken Ufrata would have struggled, Ken would have struggled to have been approved in 2021. Maybe he would have been saved from this issue of should he come, should he go. Maybe he would have been saved from the extent to which the economy was destroyed. You understand? So yes, so I'm aligned to that position of the Constitutional Review Committee. Now, there are also beyond this, there were other issues that felt that they ought to have looked at, which they didn't. For example, why do we still have the Council of State? What's their use? What's the use of the Council of State? So I'm one of the people who believe that the Council of State ought to have been scrapped. It's like creating jobs for some old men and women. And rather, we should have looked at creating a second chamber. You understand?
Okay.
A chamber which represents a chamber of national unity, where non-politicians, so trade union, what's called, other various people in this country would have that chamber, and then they can serve as a proper oversight on governance. Because another issue that over the past 8 years has been exposed, has been a weakness in our constitution, is how on earth could the president, Nanado, have chosen people who had political coloring, partisan coloring, to be on the EC. Thus undermining the ability of the EC to deliver elections which will be perceived to be free and fair. So if you had this chamber, then at least they will be handling some of these appointments. You know, there are certain institutions under this constitution which are meant to be neutral. So like the EC, like the courts. You understand? Now we all saw the damage Nanado did to these institutions. I don't know whether we can ever recover from the harm that has been done to these institutions. So I felt that the constitution ought to have looked at those things, not issues about 5 years, 4 years, 30 years, 20 years. You understand? And then also, I realized that they also dealt with how the constitution could be amended. In their video, they wanted to create a situation where it would be easier to amend certain provisions of the constitution. My view is that they must clearly state that when it came to issues that borders on tenure of the president, removal of the EC and those things, the amendment of those clauses ought to be entrenched. So there's not any clause at all that should be amended easily. They should clearly state that there are certain provisions in the constitution that must be very difficult to touch. A clear example here is the tenure of office of the president, the term. You understand? And then finally, I want to touch on the OSP because they spoke about the OSP in the review. Because see, in how the OSP was created, and I think the problem the OSP is facing is because of how it was created in the first place. Because for all intents and purposes, as of today, the only body that has the constitutional mandate to begin all prosecutions in Ghana is the Attorney General. So when you make a claim that you are creating a body that is supposed to be independent, and you create that body without amending the constitution, but through an act of parliament, then for me it's clearly doing something to represent something. You understand? Right. So once again, I'm aligned to their call that if you are going to do this independent special prosecutor, then that independent special prosecutor ought to be a creation of parliament and not an act, a creation of the constitution and not an act of parliament. So to end, I think we are in a good place generally. I'm amazed at how quickly this government has managed to turn things around regarding the state of the economy. All I'll say is there is a raging debate as to whether there was a $214 million loss or you understand. And unfortunately for the country, because of the extent of the failure of the NPP, they do not have the moral right to lead that charge. But having said that, we also don't want to create a situation where an institution created, and in fact, I must commend them for the ingenious manner in which they created this institution. But this institution ought to be sustainable because of the clear potential of the good board. Is the good board, so that if the good board continues to run at these losses, don't reach a stage where this creation, which clearly has the potential to hold our economy. And please don't listen to what the IMF and things, all the things they are saying. They don't wish us well. Because clearly, if you have enough reserves and you can use those reserves to hold the exchange rate per their constitutional mandate, then why should we even worry about what the IMF and whichever body is telling us? So I'm not concerned about the IMF.
Right.
You understand? But my concern is we ought to run this institution in a manner that will be sustainable. You understand? Yeah. And that means that they should be able to run it so well that these losses, no matter how minimal it is, can be eradicated because they are preventable losses, in my opinion. You understand?
Right.
And let us, as a people, because at the end, like Fifi Kwete said, and I was very glad with what he said, that the job of the political party, also far as he is concerned, is to run a very strong state. Let us all come together. Let us place partisan consideration where it ought to be. Let us all support our leader in this reset agenda, in building the right manner, in laying the foundations for us to then build upon to create this country that can retake its position as the Black Star of Africa.
All right, thank you so much, lawyer. Sabo, truthful to yourself and Ghanaians, can you mention one contractor who has done a job and has not been paid? All right, thank you so much for your message. This one says, this Sabo guy is still shocked. Ghanaians are now aware of everything going on in the country and not being controlled by their propaganda or their propaganda TV stations and radio stations. Thank you so much for your message. This one says, please tell Sabo to stop campaigning for the New Patriotic Party. Some Ghanaians are very grateful for what they've seen so far. All right, thank you so much for your message. Good morning, Justice, and to your guest. In 2025, NDC government did well. I wish them well. God bless our homeland Ghana and make us strong. Let me take a few of our WhatsApp messages too. Then I'll come back to the guest. All right, before we go for those messages, let me come to you, Lawyer Appiah Dankwa. All right, okay. Let me continue with some of the messages. This one says, good morning, Justice. I just saw that that news on German television that President Maduro has been captured and flown out of the country. Mr. Kwesi Pratt is one of our political teachers that must be studied in our entire education. He shows maturity in security cautious. He shows maturity in security cautious, more or less political threats to our nation. All right, thank you so much for your message. Nobody is short. Nobody is out of running GM. You're wrong. But who said that people are running GM? This one says, this is what I want people to do. Sabo all the time. Well, this one said, hey, this man can lie. And who are you? Who are they? Sabo, I'm sure they are referring to you. This one says, Mr. Pratt has finished Sabo today. And Godfred sent in that one. This one says, is the Russia-Ukraine war over? Sabo, somebody is asking you if the Russia-Ukraine war has come to an end. Someone should tell Sabo that there's nothing he will use in NPP's first year to compare that of the first year of a National Democratic Congress. All right, thank you so much for your message. The government of President Mahama in 2025 was fantastic. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Pratt. You have made my day. But please give Sabo a cool glass of water. Watching you live from Spain. All right, thank you so much for watching us from Spain. Is Sabo the NPP's best communicator? Somebody is asking. Sabo is not fit. Well, please. Sorry. This one says, Pan African TV. Is it by? Well, sorry. Uncle Kwesi Pratt is always on point. That is the mark of experience to the development of our country. Now, let me take few of the messages here. We have a lot of WhatsApp messages too. Please don't call the WhatsApp number. This one says, my regards to the host, including your panelist. I'll be grateful if Comrade Kwesi Pratt and Solomon Owusu will give me their phone numbers. Alhaji Hassan sent in that one. Thank you so much for your message. This one says, the third term agenda is pushed by the opposition NPP party to innocent Ghanaians. They are aware that Mahama will not go for that, but when he refused, another agenda will say no to Mahama. Vote. Well, the message is not clear. Please, you can send it again. This one says, the man in the studio this morning representing the NPP is not being truthful to us. It seems to him he is not in this country. He is destroying their party. Mr. Kwesi Pratt, you will live long for the country Ghana. You are my hero. All right, thank you so much for your message. This one says, Uncle Kwesi, the 5-year election period will solve two major problems. Monies spent every 4 years will now be spent every 5 years. It is saving in disguise. Secondly, it will reduce that's what the person said. Secondly, it will reduce pressure on political parties. Elliot in Amansaman sent in that message. And this one says, good morning, Justice. If Sabo is saying that inflation, which has dropped from 22.5% to 12%, then I don't know which part of the country he's coming from. This is how the NPP's foot soldiers will remain ungrateful and never praise the hard work of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC. Watching you from the Republic of where is that? You said you are in Guan district, Akpafu. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for your message. Alright, let me come to you.
So, in 1 minute, I'm supposed to comment on the performance of the OSP Parliament.
OSP Parliament, and then the.
So, OSP, my major issue with OSP is concerning the Ken Ufrata case.
Right.
How come that an institution that was meant to be independent did not have the cojones to bring these actions against Ken Ufrata when Anado was still in power? Because these were acts that he claimed were done around before 2022. So why didn't he have the cojones to bring these actions against Ken?
Right.
And for me, that sums the OSP up. I think the problem with the OSP is essentially beyond everything, anything else, is how it was set up. It was set up as in it was meant to be a rules over Ghanaians. As in Nanado's usual, let's do something to represent something. And so the OSP as it is today is not independent, and that's why it's not doing well. And I think that as one of the most critical amendments that ought to be done is, if indeed we want an independent OSP, then it has to be a constitutionally based body, not in the manner that it was done. So for me, I think the OSP, so far as I'm concerned, is not doing well. Parliament. Muntutu Mike, no. Mundani table. You will recall during the the Parliament, the NPP is attempting to turn Parliament into a house of rooks. Into a house of rooks. The NPP people, they want to turn our Parliament into a house of rooks, and that's what my brother, and I support my brother Solo in his call that we bring to life the words of our constitution when he says that you cannot qualify to be in Parliament unless you are of what? Sound mind. A lot of the NPP people clearly are not of sound mind in Parliament. They destroyed the property of Ghana, and my disappointment is that nothing was done to them. Huge disappointment. 2, you recall when they wore face masks, when they wore face masks to misbehave recently in Parliament. Recently. So again, Parliament, the way the people are handling Parliament, and the manner in which the NDC with all their majority, they are allowing all these things. Parliament, I don't have a lot to say about Parliament, unfortunately. And the judiciary too.
Right.
We have for the first time we've impeached the CJ. I think it tells you everything you want to know about. So I think in terms of our institutions, there's very little to write home about. And I think it will be in all of our interests, collective interests, that we find ways of strengthening these institutions. Because if we do not do that, then once again, I wonder how Ghana. Well, see, Ghana is a special country because of our special role in our Pan-African agenda. Right. We are leaders in this Pan-African agenda. Because of that, we do not have a choice. Things have to work here. And things won't work unless we strengthen our institutions. And these are 3 institutions that you all brought up. Institutions which are meant to be the vanguards of our accountability, probity and accountability agenda. In my opinion, are on their knees. And it's all of our responsibility to ensure that they are up and doing.
All right, thank you so much for your submission, lawyer. Sabo.
Well, it's not surprising to me because of your testers and the coming after me. It's not surprising at all because, of course, if they are quiet, they admit that I have not done well at all. I have not represented my party fully. Of course, but because I've represented my party very well, that is why they are so furious.
Right.
And that's democracy, the beauty of democracy. I think they have their say, I have my say.
Very well.
Quite apart from that, both the testers and then my elder brother, Uncle Kosi Pratt, you've rebutted most of the things that I have said. But I said with figures. But I thought maybe you could have come out with other figures to say that what I have said is a lie.
But I gave you
figures. Which figure? Which figure did you give?
That as of 2025 November, inflation was 6.3%. And then 2024, wait,
you said 2025
December, it was 23.8%.
No, you said 2025.
2025 November, inflation stood
we are talking of
6.3%.
December. Normally the year ends in December.
Okay.
Don't say November, my brother. If you are doing that, you see, that one they didn't even tell you. Those who know economics and are watching, they didn't tell you because they are okay with what you are saying. They are not okay with mine. So that one, they forget it, my brother.
Okay.
That's a monthly one that we brought. November. That's only November. That they were
and
telling me. It's okay.
After December 2024.
Why is it that I've been saying this so? Anytime everybody is speaking,
okay,
they are watching. The viewers there, they know. They understand what is going on.
Okay.
You see, so I still stand by those submissions that I have made.
Okay.
Until maybe there's any concrete thing to prove me this thing. And of course, with regards to the employment that I was talking about, I was making reference to public and civil servants that they came to remove, and then rather went and then appoint their own people at the Jubilee House. He put 60% ministers to let us believe that he has reduced the number of ministers, and of course he's going to reduce the government expenditure and the rest. And they went and increased it at the presidency.
bloated it. And I'll give you all the figures are here. I don't want to repeat myself again. The next issue, the OSP, I think with that one I agree with lawyer Appiah that we should see how best we can make the holder of that office independent of the executive, so that he can put, in fact, he's supposed to actually watch over the executives. So if he's not independent of the executive, how does he watch over them? So I think there should be a process. This office, I don't want it to go. In fact, I strongly believe that it will go a long way to protect state access and also shape our democracy as we want to. Because people now feel that, many people now see politics to be a means of actually making or amassing wealth and what have you. But if we are able to put certain systems in place, I think it will go a long way to protect the assets of this country and the future, progress of this country. And then which one is the last one?
Parliament and then
Parliament.
and then
Parliament, frankly speaking, that one I think largely I'll put the blame on us as a party. That most of the infighting was too much and the rest. And then for that matter, we were not able to represent our people in Parliament how we're supposed to have done. And for that matter, today as we speak, it is just a name, Parliament, but we all know what is happening in Parliament. What Ghanaians actually expect Parliament to do, the kind of quality of deliberation, the kind of quality of programs and policies that should be approved for the Ghanaian is no more there. Now it is just at the decision of the president. You just say, I want to do this. And of course, like my elder brother was saying, those who sycophants and the rest, there's nothing they can say. They'll say, oh, yeah. Then they come to Parliament and it is passed. So today, as we speak, Ghanaians are not actually getting the full benefit of Parliament as is supposed to work as an arm of government. Parliament is just, I don't want to use some words, but of course, we all know what is happening in Parliament today. So I don't think we are getting the best. And that's why I put the blame on us. If we had actually acted very well, we would have had a full representation in Parliament and then provide Ghanaians the best of policies and programs or governance that will take us to the next level. We pray and hope that the next Parliament will look better. But on the Parliament on the same basis, I think the number of seats currently, to me, I think it will have been okay. But we should rather see how best we can do in other areas to take development deep into those areas, but not creating more constituencies again. But maybe we can rather look at district assemblies or any other local governance system in order for the majority of our people in the rural areas to also benefit from the national cake. And that will go a long way to help us. But to conclude, let's see 2026 what comes on board, especially with regards to the management of the economy. I think now we are now in the plane, and then now there's nothing to lean on. We are now going to lean on our own destiny, and that is where we see the true nature of this particular government. But like I said, most of the things that happen in 2025, when it is bad, they say it is the NPP. When it is good, they say it is them who are doing it. Now we are moving to a different destiny altogether. We shall see. The Dogombes have a saying that the frog's length can only be known when it is dead. We shall see how things will go.
All right, thank you so much, Sabo. Mr. Pratt.
Well, just two quick. And one is that the OSP was deliberately set out to fail. Even as we speak, the power to prosecute is vested in the Attorney General, and the OSP can only act on behalf of the Attorney General. Quite apart from that, the number one spending officer is the Minister of Finance. And you create an OSP which has to submit its budget to Ministry of Finance for approval. It is doomed to fail. You understand?
Right.
Now, the other comment I'd like to make is simply that the NDC has to be very, very careful not to abuse its parliamentary majority. The people of Ghana gave the NDC that majority so that it can use that to bulldoze his way and implement an agenda which will bring relief to them, would improve the economic conditions, would improve access to education and so on. And that should be what that majority should be used for and nothing more. Finish.
All right, thank you so much. Let's take our final, bit of the messages and then we wrap up. This one says, do not blame Sabo. It is a grand plan by the New Patriotic Party to revive the 2015 propaganda of lies, which will not wash. Thank you so much for your message. This one says, good morning, Justice. If Sabo is saying that, well, I read your message already. I read that particular one. This one says, Sabo, do you live in a different country? I beg you to bring your party card. All right, thank you so much for your message. This one says, government must end the urban drift in the country immediately. It's a long one. I cannot read everything. This one says, good morning, panel members. My name is Eric Joe Akon. I will advise that the NPP member should be allowed on this platform. They are not helping the nation. Okay, thank you so much for your message. This one says, why the world sits for America to attack other countries? I pray that the world would be healed to a place where we would not. All right, okay. I've been prompted that my time is up. This is what time will allow us on the program. Make a time with us same time next week. My name is Justice Appiah and I sat in for my brother Sena Numo. Have a lovely afternoon. Goodbye.
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Now so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.